Welcome to This Just In, the show bringing you the latest advancements in healthcare, strategy, innovation, and public policy. And now, for the fastest voice in healthcare, here's your host, Justin Barnes.
Welcome back to This Just In Radio Show, broadcasting live from HIMSS25 in sunny Las Vegas. Very excited to introduce my next guest and great friend of the show and a great friend of mine, Ashwini Davison, CMIO Oncology with AWS. Welcome to the show, Ashwini.
Thanks so much, Justin.
Or
great
Dr. Davison, you're awesome.
Ashwini is great. No, thanks so much, Justin. Great to be here, and what an exciting time.
It is, absolutely. I assume you've had an amazing few days here in Las Vegas so far?
Yes, I really think that one of the highlights for me so far, Justin, has been that thought leadership dinner.
Absolutely.
That you got to really be a part of as well, where we're meeting with strategists from health plans and foundations, IT organizations, all about how we can do better by infusing AI into the cancer patient journey.
Yes.
That was really inspiring yesterday.
It was, and I actually brought it up in my pre-air motions and discussion actually with Roberta, my producer. I actually brought up some of the components from that and the exciting aspects that we discussed. Actually, why don't you take a second to talk about what you were most excited about last night before we dive into the show, because we got a little time here. So yeah, what did you love about last night and that dinner?
I think what's so important in this time period where we're all aware of the importance of being efficient and trying to find ways to automate and collaborate, what I enjoyed most about the conversation, Justin, was that we had public-private partnerships that currently exist, whether it's between AWS and a health system or AWS and our expansive partner network, but they were all in the room together. And that's going to increasingly be important. I think I started off last night, right, with that quote from JFK, which is, "Rising tide lifts all boats."
Absolutely.
And
love it.
There's momentum here, and we all have to lift each other.
Very true. And you also brought up the call, we need to standardize more on FHIR, correct? Give me 10 seconds on that or 15 seconds on that, because
absolutely happy to. So FHIR is a standard that we have really worked on increasing adoption of, and especially with the Children's Brain Tumor Network. This is led by Adam Resnick at the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia, as well as Jay Storm. CBTN is a 35 multi-site consortium, and their goal is to find cures for pediatric cancers. To do that, we really need near real-time data access, and FHIR with AWS Health Lake integration is really one of the standards that we're testing and promoting, and really feel optimistic that we're going to be able to get there to help children.
Love it. And so I brought up that before we went on air too, just because obviously importance. Actually, one of the fathers of FHIR will be here coming up next, Anish Chopra. So I love it, and I want to make sure we keep talking about that and pushing that, because it needs to be a standard that's adopted much more broadly.
Yeah,
and we're getting there.
I'm so glad that Anish is here. He's been championing this for so long, and the journey that him and his team have had with Care Journey and then with Arcadia, really impressive work. And again, he's another great advocate for public-private partnerships.
Absolutely. That's how I met him, the first time I ever met him. So what progress are you most excited about seeing in the industry today?
I think that what I am really excited about, Justin, and you're seeing it this week, is the emphasis on multimodal data. It's so important. We have to be able to see the full patient, right? We have experience with electronic health records. We know the importance of that clinical record, right? We can host EHRs on AWS.
Yes.
That's great. But the other part that's so important, especially in oncology, the imaging data, the genomics data, that, spatial transcriptomics, digital pathology, and that's something that the conversation, it's now infused into the broader conversation.
Love it. Totally agree. And you talk about a little bit, as you started here, but what are you most passionate about that you're currently working on?
Thanks for asking. I'm thrilled in the new year to be asked by our AWS healthcare leadership to focus on our strategic initiatives in oncology. So in my role, I am leading the charge from the AWS side with our involvement with the Cancer AI Alliance. You may have seen the announcement from Matt Garman, our CEO, at the end of 2024 that AWS has invested $10 million to support it, with 4 NCI cancer centers to start, Fred Hutch, Dana-Farber, MSK, and Johns Hopkins, but really with the goal to expand to the other NCI cancer centers. And what I think is so important about this initiative that I'm really looking forward to advancing quickly with the teams is that it focuses on, as Jeff Leake from Fred Hutch would say, sharing AI insights without sharing patient data.
Right.
So important.
Yep. Love it. And how many sites are there? There's 37. How many sites are there?
Great question. So the initial cohort for Cancer AI Alliance, KAIA, is 4 cancer centers. But then ultimately the goal would be to expand to the other, there's a total of 57, let's say, comprehensive cancer centers. Right. And then ultimately 70 NCI designated basic clinical. But really, right, and I think where you're getting at is to move the needle, to really help the larger population. There's 1,000 cancer centers, even without National Cancer Institute designation. We have to make those insights available to them. Absolutely. And that's part of the ethos from the get-go. How can this scale?
Yep, love it. And I think I kind of know some of this, but what are your goals for HIMSS25 and what do you hope to achieve over the, you've already achieved a lot in the last couple of days. I know that's part of some of it, but over the next couple of days, what else do you want to achieve while you're here?
What I really want to achieve, Justin, is making sure that others who are here understand how much we are diving deep, one of our leadership principles, into the cancer center space to support patients, providers, and the population. And that means not just focusing on the data, but the strategic public-private partnerships.
Absolutely.
Figuring out how we can support with diversifying revenue streams to kickstart this, right? So it's not just about the government, but what can we do as an industry, and what can we do to have philanthropy kickstart certain efforts? They play a really important role and are passionate. And so I was just with the Pediatric Brain Tumor Foundation the other day, and we'll be meeting with Breakthrough Cancer, in a few weeks. Those foundations and the nonprofits play a big role in advocating for change, and we have to let them lean in with us.
So let's be saying something inspiring, because I was inspired by some of the conversation last night at dinner, but I think for my listeners, certainly who are patients, I'm mainly health systems and thought leaders listen to my show, but there's also a handful of patients out there that listen to my show, and we're all patients in our own right. What can we look forward to over the next couple of years? And this is not necessarily following the questions of my show, but more of inspirational, what people are going to look forward to in cancer treatments and how we can bring treatments more quickly to bear and more quickly to market because of Gen AI. Talk to us a second about that.
Yeah, that's a great question, Justin. And I want to share that some of the passion that I have and the involvement that I have is because of the patients and the patients' families who understandably are mad, right? There has not been a cure or a treatment for DIPG, diffuse intrinsic pontine glioma. We don't have a treatment. Expected survival is less than 9 months. That's no different from the 1960s when Neil Armstrong's daughter passed away. And some of the mothers who have lost their children to DIPG are the ones that have taught me the most about how we have to go beyond the technology and really focus on the partnerships with the data to leverage AI to find some of those patterns. And that's a lot of what we're doing, whether it's with Amanda Haddock and the Dragon Master Foundation, Lisa Ward and the work she's leading with DARPA. What we really want to do is, it shouldn't take weeks, right, to get the results to an analyst or a researcher. This needs to be near real time so that we can apply those AI insights and perhaps even expand right into N of 1 clinical trials.
There you go.
Those are some of the really important needle-moving initiatives that we're working on with pharma, health systems, and AWS.
I love it. Excellent. So look into the proverbial crystal ball. What do you see as a trend or a strategy that we need to be ready to navigate in 2 to 3 years from now? I know it's a big question because we're actually, even with Gen AI, things move very quickly. However, what do we be ready to navigate in a couple of years from now, do you think?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. And what I will say, Justin, is just during our podcast alone, every 30 seconds, there's been a new patient diagnosed with cancer, right? So we have to move fast, and our cognitive capacity alone isn't sufficient.
Right.
We have to apply AI, not just in diagnosis, management, and treatment, but really in moving upstream. How can we prevent? What are those additional factors? And data's not the issue, right? There's an abundance of data, but harmonizing that data, getting it in a way that we can apply, that is AI ready, that's so important. And I think especially with the executive order, right, focusing on making America healthy again, there's such a huge emphasis on children, but moving upstream to cure, to prevent,
Yes.
rather than just focusing on sick care and curing.
Yep.
I think that's where we have to move the conversation as well.
Love it. Dr. Davison, in the closing minute here, what do you want to see maybe from almost as a challenge to the industry? I mean, what can we do as an industry? Say, hey, Justin, if these thought leaders or these people can get together, these organizations, what would you say is a challenge to somebody to say, I want more progress here, or I challenge the industry? Because I know I do that from my perspective when talking to back in the day with EHR companies. I would always challenge them to get better, make it more usable, more focused on the clinician, less burden areas. Well, is there a challenge that you might put out to people?
Here's the challenge that I would put out, and I think yesterday's dinner was really a start to that. Please embrace the partnerships and let us know what you have out there. There's some amazing innovation, right? We had some brilliant chief innovation officers in the room. We had a former, Secretary of Health for a state.
Yep.
We all need to be sharing the innovations that we have so that we can get to a space of efficiency, right? We have to bring those ISVs, the independent software vendors, together with the SIs, our system integrators. And that's where the APN, the AWS Partner Network, can play such a tremendous role in bridging those gaps, connecting the dots, because we can do better together.
Absolutely.
And we can lift all boats, but we need to know what's out there. The innovation's there, bring it to us. We want to know what's happening so that we can prevent others from having to reinvent the wheel in a time where automation and efficiency is top of mind.
Yeah, I love that. Congratulations there. And I will say the energy in the room last night and the collaboration that you have and the way people work together and just the way they treat each other is inspiring. And so that kind of left the dinner last night, just seeing that kind of collaboration, energy, and again, individual thought leadership was unsurpassed. So all is phenomenal.
Thank you so much, Justin.
And you see the umbrella that AWS puts out there for everybody, and you give us this great collaborative platform as well. In the closing seconds, is there a partner or two that you said, hey, these, that you love or you would love to highlight for a second? These seem to always go above and beyond or work a little bit harder than anybody else. Anything like that?
What I will say is we have, some tremendous partners in the imaging space and the digital pathology space. And yesterday you saw we had, the CTO from Proscia there, and
Yes.
they're doing some wonderful
Phenomenal
work
growth too, yeah.
in
Great.
digital pathology and supporting, patients with cancer. From
Yes.
the system integrator side, Sidious Tech, the Vice President John Mamarian was there, an expert in imaging informatics, oncology informatics, and then also on the ISV side, what I'll really say is there's some emerging startups and spin-outs on AWS that folks should keep an eye out for, that you'll be hearing about in the next few weeks and months.
Very exciting. Dr. Davison, AWS, thank you so much for joining the show.
Thank you, Justin.
Appreciate you. We'll see you soon. Thank you.